I invite you to open your Old Testaments, please, to the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 1. Ecclesiastes chapter 1. This is where we'll begin this morning. Ecclesiastes chapter 1. I must tell you, a lot of reading this morning. We're going to look at a lot of passages. We're going to read quite a few passages. They'll be in fewer places, but we're going to read more of it. How about that? So we're going to end up reading quite a bit. So I hope you're prepared for that. It's a blessing to be together, a blessing to be able to spend time in worship this morning and to enjoy what makes Sundays the very best day of the week. And we're so thankful to all be together here this morning. Thankful for new life. And I guess that new life has been there for like 9.5, 10 months, but it's thankful that, family can meet that new life, and we're grateful that everything went well with the family there that expected the child and now has it. So that's marvelous, and we're grateful to God for His good blessings. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, please. Verse 1. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit has a man from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? One generation passes away, and another generation comes, but the earth abides forever. The sun also rises, and the sun goes down, and hastens to the place where it arose. The wind goes toward the south, and turns around to the north. The wind whirls about continually, and comes again on its circuit. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place from which the rivers come, they there return again. Verse 8, all things are full of labor. Man cannot express it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. That which has been is what will be. That which is done is what will be done. And there's nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of things that are to come by those who will come after. Verse 2, vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Solomon, the son of David, sets out to evaluate the meaning of life. What's the purpose? What's the whole point to all of this? And at the beginning of what's called the Ecclesiastes experiment, he says, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Emptiness, senselessness, pointlessness. In fact, in some ways, it's even grasping at the wind. You ever grab the wind? Let me know if you caught it. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. It's interesting. If you'll watch people that have reached the pinnacle of everything they set out to do, maybe this is some celebrity, maybe this is some sports person, whatever it is, they reach the pinnacle. Everything they've been working for all of their life, it's interesting to see how many of them just sit back and say, now what? What's the point? The Olympics comes around, and these individuals literally spend their entire life preparing to compete. Set record after record after record, and then it's pretty interesting when you're watching the Olympics and there's the fella in the stands and he's watching the record he just set get broken. One word comes to mind: vanity, emptiness, senselessness. What's the point? What's the point of all of this? What's the point of life? What are we doing here? And I think Solomon gives us a great example here of an experiment and where we really go if we limit our search to what's under the sun. What's the point of life? Well, under the sun, folks, gives us a very limited experience. If we just take what we can touch and what we can experience, what we can handle in this world, and we, from that, separate the discussion of God for a moment, what's the point of life? Solomon says, vanity, emptiness, senselessness. In some respects, this is written in some ways like an autobiography, as Solomon tries to explore the meaning of life. This is one reason why this phrase pops up so much in Ecclesiastes. Vanity. What I have for you this morning, I think, is an incredibly timely lesson. I think it's an important study. I think every person in this room can benefit from it. I truly think that our young people need to perk up and listen, because I really only have 1.5 points this morning. And so we're going to spend a lot of time on just point 1. We're going to follow Ecclesiastes. We're going to follow Solomon. And we're going to ask, what's the point of life? I actually have had some individuals recommend using Ecclesiastes as a tool for evangelism, because it offers so much a parallel of what every generation faces. And I want you to hear me on this, because we like to think that things are different now. No, they're not. They're not different now. You see them because of television, but things are the same. Things are the exact same. And the way that humankind tries to find purpose is the exact same. And so here we are, it's 2026. Solomon wrote in 970 BC, approximately. And nothing's changed. Let's evaluate. Let's investigate. What's the point of life? And for this first portion of our discussion, we will limit our search to only that which is under the sun. We stopped in verse 11, now verse 12. Chapter 1, verse 12. I, the preacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I set my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all that is done under heaven, this burdensome task God has given to the sons of man, by which they may be exercised. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and indeed all is vanity and grasping for the wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, what is lacking cannot be numbered. And I communed with my heart, saying, Look, I have attained greatness, and I have gained more wisdom than all who were before me in Jerusalem. My heart has understood great knowledge and wisdom, and I set my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that also it is grasping for the wind. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. Pay close attention, folks. What he says is, verse 13, I set my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all that's done under heaven. He essentially says, let me throw myself in intellectual pursuits. Let me just divert myself to all of this accruing of information and knowledge. Let me learn and develop and grow in my mind. And what he says is, I did it. What I found was vanity, grasping for the wind. And yet, folks, how many times do we see this in our own culture today? How many individuals throw themselves in academia, throw themselves in scholarly work, and become this great big intellectual giant and know diddly squat? It's emptiness. It's vanity. It's grasping for the wind. It's senselessness. It has no sense. And yet we're still duplicating Solomon's efforts. Individuals will throw themselves into years of pursuits intellectually. What do they have to show for it? And this is not to undermine schoolwork. Go get your schoolwork. Sure, do it. But understand something. No amount of schooling will give you purpose in life. And I do not care how many little letters you get in front of your name or after your name, or how many times people have to call you sir or ma'am or mister, or how many times do you get the accolades and the praise. None of that will give you purpose. Solomon says, I was not only king in Israel, I was the smartest man. I had more wisdom than all who went before me. And what did he say? It was empty. In fact, sometimes the more you know, the more burdensome it becomes. Did you catch that at the end of the passage? He said, I accrued all this intellectual prowess, but in much wisdom is much grief, verse 18. Is it no wonder then that the individuals who reach these high accolade places are also people that struggle with other things? They've reached the pinnacle, and yet those things are deceptive. They don't provide anything. They don't give you anything. They don't offer substance, and they don't offer purpose and meaning. They offer maybe pride and perhaps even arrogance. You know, it's interesting that in our age today, how many are coming back to some of the fundamental values of the old science. Let me explain. Science was originally built on theological understanding. You go read the history books, all of the great scientists were all believers in a God. All believers in theism. Generally speaking, Christianity. Isaac Newton, lots of individuals like, yeah, heard that name before? That's not the guy who created the fig Newton either. Not related, I don't think. I don't think fig Newtons have been around that long. Although maybe, they do last a while. But there was a period where science and scientists, brilliant individuals, nobody's denying that, at the same time could in their arrogance say, we have solved the life equation. And I say now, it's interesting that some of those same areas like that are kind of coming back. I know some individuals who are at the front line of some scientific efforts who are fundamentally believers in God. Maybe it's because of experiments like Solomon's here. I amassed knowledge, but that doesn't make one bit of difference. It is not where we find purpose. It is not where we find meaning. So maybe somebody says, okay, well, let's scratch off the pursuit of knowledge. Let's just take that off the discussion for now. Let's try something else. Solomon does that. Chapter 2, verse 1. I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure. But surely this was also vanity. I said of laughter, madness, and of mirth, what does it accomplish? I searched in my heart how to gratify my flesh with wine, while guiding my heart with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly, till I might see that what was good for the sons of men to do under heaven all the days of their lives. Skip down a little bit, verse 9. So I became great and excelled more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I did not withhold my heart from pleasure, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor. This was my reward from all my labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, on the labor in which I had toiled, and indeed was vanity, grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun. He essentially says, okay, knowledge doesn't work. I'll throw myself into pleasure. I'll pursue everything my heart wants. I'll grab a hold of everything that will make me smile for a fleeting moment. I'll do anything that can make me happy. What does he keep saying? It's vanity. It's emptiness. The section we didn't read, we're going to come back to it in just a second, he essentially says, I began to build things to further my efforts in pleasure. Do you think Solomon had access to pleasure? You better believe it. He had money. He had a royal harem. You do anything you want to do, Solomon had it better. And yet he keeps going back to this same refrain. It's vanity, it's emptiness, it's senselessness, it's grasping for the wind. I can be as pleasured as I want, and it does not give me purpose. You want to talk about something that relates again to our culture? You see, the individual that says, well, maybe knowledge is not the route I want to take, what do they do instead? I'll throw myself into pleasure. Anything I want to do, I won't keep my hands from it. That's our culture's slogan, folks. He says it's pointless. It's meaningless. It's nothing. Folks, those things are not a solution. They're not the point of life. They're not the purpose. We do not find meaning in them. We continue to examine that which is under the sun, and all of those things, while they might make you smile, will not bring you purpose. Perhaps one of the reasons why that is, folks, is because no matter how you throw yourself into wine and women and fun, it's a fleeting fun. Solomon, I think, perhaps could explain that better than anybody could. What happens? You have fun with it. It doesn't last. And then you need fun again. Did I just describe drugs, by the way? A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. drugs are exactly what works with this whole system. I'll give this euphoric experience, you see? I'll have this fleeting moment of awesome existence. What's going to happen? You come down off of that, you need it again. Folks, that is exactly what drugs are. And by the way, that's exactly what all of these fleeting sensual things are. That's what living for the experience and pleasure are. You keep chasing, but you will never catch. And so Solomon continues to say, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Back up in verse 4 now. Chapter 2, verse 4. I made my works great. I built myself houses, planted myself vineyards. I made myself gardens and orchards. I planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made myself water pools from which to water the growing trees of the grove. I acquired male and female servants and had servants born in my house. Yes, I had greater possessions of herds and flocks than all who were in Jerusalem before me. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and special treasures of kings and provinces. I acquired male and female singers, the delights of the sons of men, and musical instruments of all kinds. Jump down to verse 12. Then I turned myself to consider wisdom and madness and folly. For what can man do who succeeds the kings? Only that which is already done. Then I saw that wisdom excels folly, as light excels darkness. The wise man's eyes are his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet I myself perceive that the same event happens to them all. So I said in my heart, as it happens to the fool, it also happens to me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart, this is also vanity. There is no more remembrance of the wise than of the fool forever, since all that now is will be forgotten in the days to come. And how does a wise man die? As the fool. Therefore I hated life, because the work that was done under the sun was distressing to me. For all is vanity and grasping for the wind. Then I hated all my labor in which I had toiled under the sun, because I must leave it to the man who will come after me. And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool, yet he will rule over all my labor in which I toiled, in which I have shown myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. Therefore I turned my heart and despaired of all the labor in which I had toiled under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, yet he must leave his heritage to a man who has not labored for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. For what has man for all his labor and for the striving of his heart with which he has toiled under the sun? For all his days are sorrowful and his work burdensome. Even in the night his heart takes no rest. This is also vanity. You recognize what he says? He says, I had everything in greater scope than any king before me. Saul could not touch what Solomon had. Not even David could touch what Solomon had. And so he says, I threw myself into work. I labored in all directions. I had things that nobody could have thought of before. Entertainment, structures, these great edifices right here built in the city of David. All around Jerusalem, Solomon's greatness was seen. All around the nation, Solomon's greatness was seen. He said, I built and I built and I built. Nobody could do it better. And he just keeps saying it's empty. It's vanity, senselessness, grasping for the wind. You recognize then that last section we read? He just keeps saying, I hated the work. I hated it. I labored and I hated it. Why? Because I built and built and built and all my wisdom was seen. And then I turn around and hand it to somebody else. You want to talk about feeling senseless? You want to talk about that word vanity again? He says, I built all of this great stuff. And I'm going to give it to the person who didn't work for it. I'm going to give it to the person who was not wise in building it. I'm just going to give it to the next generation. And who knows? He'll be a fool or wise. Who knows? And by the way, as history would say, he was super foolish. Wasn't he? Rehoboam split the kingdom. Solomon's wealth didn't even outlast his generation of people, folks. All the great things Solomon built. And Rehoboam tore it down. Because of foolishness. He says, I threw myself into work. And again, what does our world do? Our world throws it into knowledge pursuits, into pleasure pursuits. Just throw yourself into work and climb the corporate ladder, become somebody. What good does it do you? It's vanity, it's emptiness, it is senselessness. Can I tell you something, folks? We have an advantage today. Media. And I'm sure you never thought a preacher would ever say, we have the advantage of media. We have the advantage of media. Because we can see this experiment played out every day on the news. The advantage of money and career and sex and pleasure, does that get you anywhere? No, we see it on the news. It doesn't get you anywhere. Did you know the positions in a corporate office that are most likely to commit suicide are CEOs, CFOs, COOs? Yeah. All the chief officers in a corporate building are the ones most likely to commit suicide. That is statistic facts. They have met the pinnacle of their office. They have climbed the corporate ladder, and we would think they've got it made. Their house is 3 times bigger than mine. They've got more cars than I do. And they also have a greater risk for suicide. Why? Because of Solomon's experiment 1000 BC. 970 BC. Did you know that of the top 10 professions, most likely to commit suicide, we would call like 6 to 7 of them lucrative fields? Medical doctors, dentists, police officers, veterinarians, financial services, real estate agents, electricians, lawyers, farmers, and pharmacists. Those are the top 10 fields that are most likely to commit suicide. How many of those would we say are lucrative? Medical doctors? That's number 1, folks. And yet, as most people think, what? Go to school. Go to school and go get a good job. Those are all good jobs. But that does not provide us what we really, truly need. So many of those who reach the top of those fields feel that same senselessness that Solomon talks about, that same emptiness, that void, that vanity. And we would think maybe in college, did you know that college athletics, they're 8.7% more likely to struggle with depression and to struggle with suicidal tendencies. I'm sorry, they're twice as much. 8.7% is the national average. They're 15%. 15 to 21% in some situations. You know, you think there's this person who's playing sports at the collegiate level. Hell, you may have dodged a bullet after your invitation Wednesday night. They're playing sports at the collegiate level, and we would think, man, like, yeah, I mean, the major leagues are one step above that, but that's impressive. And they're twice as likely to struggle with depression. Do I even need to make the comment about movie stars? Celebrities? Folks, we see this. Individuals who have it all and have nothing. They have it all and they have nothing. Why? Because under the sun, if all we look at is under the sun, we truly have limited our experiment. I had a conversation with somebody. This is not a preacher story. This is a real conversation of an individual who had been in the military, an individual who had kind of really had been in the military for a number of years. And when he finally got out, after about a 10-year stint, I think 8 in the one field and then another 2 in National Guard or something, he got out on 10 years overall. And on his way home, just thought, what in the world is the point of my life? You know, this is all I wanted. This is all I ever really thought about. And now that it's over, what do I do? It's the same feeling that all of those individuals I started with a moment ago struggle with. I've spent my whole life thinking this is my purpose. And now that I've done it, what do I do with my life? The search stays under the sun. And all we can keep saying is vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Well, folks, I want to twist this just a little bit. Part of the thing Solomon does is he gives us these little hints about what to do under the sun. So we stopped in verse 23. Look at verse 24. Look at verse 24. Nothing is better for a man that he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy the good of his labors.
This also I saw was from the hand of God. For who can eat? Who can have enjoyment more than I? For God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who is good in his sight, but to the sinner he gives the work of gathering and collecting, that he may give to him who is good before God. This also is vanity and grasping for the wind. Carefully note verse 24. Solomon says, enjoy these things as they are from the hand of God. What do we do with these? We recognize they come from the goodness of God. Chapter 3, verse 9. Chapter 3, verse 9. What profit is the worker from this and all he labors? I have seen the God-given task with which the sons of men are to be occupied. He has made everything beautiful in His time. Also, He has put eternity in their hearts, except this: no one can find out the work that God does from beginning to end. I know that nothing is better than for them than to rejoice, to do good in their lives, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of his labor. It is a gift from God. Solomon says, let me twist this experiment a little bit. If all I do is look at what's here and now, I'm going to keep finding vanity. But what if I take this same good thing and that I tried to enjoy, and I twist it slightly, and I say this is a gift from God? Boy, now he's getting somewhere. Chapter 5, verse 18. Chapter 5, verse 18. Here's what I have seen. It is good and fitting for one to eat and drink, and to enjoy the good of all his labor in which he toils under the sun all the days of his life, which God gives him, for it is his heritage. For as for a man to whom God has given riches and wealth and given him power to eat of it, to receive his heritage, rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of God. For he will not dwell unduly on the days of his life, because God keeps him busy with the joy of his heart. The very same thing Solomon said in chapters 1 and 2 are emptiness. Now he is saying they're a gift from God. They're a gift from God. This goes on, chapter 7, verse 13. Consider the work of God, for he who can make straight what he has made crooked. In the day of prosperity be joyful, but in the day of adversity consider, surely God has appointed the one as well as the other, so that man can find out nothing that will come after him. This idea is repeated a couple of more times. Skip to the end of the book. Skip to the end of the book, because this is where the whole thing goes. Essentially, Solomon says, do not confuse the little things, the little blessings, with the sum total of what life is all about. He says, don't take those things you enjoy and think that's all that you're supposed to be doing here. That's your purpose in life, is knowledge or pleasure or work. He says, don't take those things and view that as absolute. Instead, he says, verse 13 of chapter 12, to hear the conclusion of the whole matter, fear God and keep His commandments, for this is man's all. For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. Solomon says you take those good blessings from God and remember they came from Him. Enjoy them. Enjoy them. They're gifts. And you'll give an account to Him in the end. Well, folks, I tell you, that's life under the sun. Without God, absolutely senseless. With God, we have perspective then, don't we? These are gifts from our good Father in heaven. I want you to think, though, this is where that half point comes in. Remember? What if we just expanded our experiment ever so slightly to John chapter 1? John, the first chapter. You see, folks, the entire discussion has changed, hasn't it? Because we don't have to limit our experiment to life under the sun. We don't have to consider only that part of the equation, because the entire equation was shifted when the Son of God entered life under the sun. You see? John 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made by Him, and without Him nothing was made that was made. In Him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. So here we have the Word that is God. Verse 14, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory. The glory is of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness of Him and cried out, saying, this was He of whom I said, He who comes after me is preferred before me, for He was before me. Of His fullness we have all received the grace for grace. For the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. No one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son who is in the bosom of the Father, He has declared Him. Do you see then, folks, that what we have is the experiment expanded to include the very Son of God? That the Son of God entered into this world.
That indeed heaven came down. John chapter 6 would highlight that He is the bread from heaven. We have purpose in Jesus Christ. We have greater depth and greater meaning. We won't take the time to read all of these. I would just encourage you to go read John chapter 6 because every one of these points are echoed in John 6. We have depth and meaning. In fact, in John 6, he highlights knowing the one whom the Father sent. In fact, even here in John chapter 1, that He's the only begotten of the Father, He is here to declare Him. So knowledge by itself is empty, but knowing Jesus, that's the whole point. To know Him the Father sent. Desires that can never be satisfied is exactly what He tells the woman at the well, that this well you'll drink, but you'll need to drink again, but He's the living water. And it's the same comment He makes in John chapter 6, that your fathers ate the manna and they're dead, but I'm the bread from heaven, and he who eats of me will never die. Folks, do you see then that the pleasures of this life culminate in Jesus Christ? Why are we warned then to not lay up treasures on earth? Because moth and rust can destroy, thieves can break in and steal, but instead, what do? Lay up treasures in heaven. Solomon says, I amassed wealth, and it was vanity. Jesus says, build your treasure in heaven. Solomon said work was empty. And Jesus says, don't labor for the food which perishes, but for the food which endures to everlasting life. Do you see then, folks? Under the sun of this world, it's empty. It's vanity. It's grasping for the wind. It does not satisfy. But with the Son, Jesus Christ, God in the flesh, all of this comes into a meaningful new view. It's no wonder then in John 6, Jesus highlights that all die, and yet through Him we live. Let me say it like this. Our search is not empty. If we were to perform the experiment of Ecclesiastes now, our search is not empty. Because although in some sense we would still be limited to that which is under the sun, we have the Son of God who came under the sun. And in Him we find purpose and meaning. In Him this all matters because He died for you. Folks, what's the point of life? The point of life has not changed since Ecclesiastes 12, 13, and 14. To fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. But it has been modified. Live for King Jesus, because He died for you. I honestly could think of no better question. What's the point of life? And if we wanted to just boil that down to the bare, simplest form, Jesus. The one who gave His life so that I might live in Him. If you're sitting here this morning and you have wrestled with what's the point of life, hopefully we've given you some good answers. Maybe these are things that have kind of been in the back of your mind and now you're chewing on them. Let's discuss this. Let's talk. Let's have some conversations. Let me bring maybe a little bit more personalized study about Jesus and the fulfillment we have in Him. If we can help you in some way, this is your opportunity as we stand and as we sing.